All right, we're on. I just threw my mate Chris here into the deep end. Say hello.
Hey, how's it going?
So I'm here with Chris Duong. Is that how I pronounce it? Or do I pronounce it Jung?
Yung
Yeah.
in Vietnamese, but Duong.
Duong.
Yeah.
Is how most Aussies would say it.
That's right.
Yeah. So Chris is one of the co-owners of Duo.
Yes.
Yes?
Yep.
We'll get into that. So that's a fried ice cream, I guess, a truck at the moment. And obviously you do some other bits and pieces, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yep. And it's quite funny actually because my wife and I did actually visit your pop-up truck when it was I think it was on Canterbury Road somewhere, or would have been like there's a car wash.
Yeah, that would have been probably a year or two ago.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Back in Dulwich Hill.
Okay, Dulwich Hill. That's
Yep.
the one. Yep. Yeah. So because I'm a bit of a fried ice cream fan myself. You know, when I go to most Chinese restaurants, I like to partake in the deep fried ice cream.
Indulgence.
In the indulgence.
Yeah.
And it's always quite funny because most places, you know, when you go to a Chinese restaurant, it's like, oh, you know, what topping would you like? And it's either chocolate, caramel, or strawberry. And I'm that guy that says no topping.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, I'm one of those.
Okay, yeah.
I'm one of those. But yeah, no, my wife and I did visit, and it was really good. And it was just coincidence that, you know, you ended up, you started training jiu-jitsu at the same place where I am. I guess, let me ask you, how did you find out about ICC and how did you start there?
Yeah, so I guess as a kid, I was always really into the UFC.
Yep.
When I was, I think in my early teens, one of my cousins showed me one of the really early UFCs, and he just said to me, "Hey, like, look at this thing. Like, it's like no rules. It's crazy. Like, they're fighting with like no gloves, and it's just like." And when I saw it, I was like addicted to it. And then I just remember like being a teenager, just like rolling around with my cousins and just doing stuff. And then it went away, but I kept watching the UFC. And then one day went to the beach with Michael, who I go to BJJ with now.
Yep.
We just kind of started talking about it, and we said, "Hey, why don't we just give it a go?"
Yep.
And then did a Google search.
Yep.
ICC came up with one of the top reviews.
Yep.
And for good reason.
Yep.
So yeah, that's how it all started.
All right, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, I'm going to pull it back a bit. Let's rewind the clock a little bit.
Yep.
So obviously, you Vietnamese background.
Yes.
Yep. And then were you born in Australia?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. And so what area did you grow up in?
So grew up in Menai.
Menai.
So down in the Shire.
Yep.
Yep. And pretty much born and raised there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so from I guess, you know, growing up in Menai, what would one of your first memories be of that?
I'd say one of my very earlier memories would just be always being at the park. And yeah, just there's a lot of parks around Menai, and just spending a lot of time with my cousins. That's where I say I'd spend a lot of my childhood.
Yep.
And yeah, it's probably like the earliest memories.
And was most of your family around Menai as well?
Yeah, so we had one of my cousins who lived right next door to me.
Yep.
We had connecting backyards.
Okay.
And one that lived like 5 minutes away. So
Okay.
we're really tight knit.
Okay. Was there a big Vietnamese population in Menai?
No, actually it was the opposite. So when I went to high school in Menai, I was actually, I think there was only 2 Asian kids in my grade.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was one of the 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, I guess, you know, talking about school, right? So in primary school, did you ever feel that you were different, or was that you just all felt normal to you?
So I actually went to primary school in Revesby,
Okay.
which there is a big Vietnamese community there. So I was pretty comfortable.
Yep.
It was only when I changed schools in mid-high school, so year 10,
Yep.
when I came to Aquinas College in Menai.
Yep.
That was when I really felt like there was a big difference, because I was, like probably the only Asian. Yeah. People looking at me funny, like.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And so in primary school, you went to primary school in Revesby. How would you have described yourself as a kid?
As a kid in primary school, I'd say I was very energetic and hyper.
Yeah.
I needed somewhere to put my energy towards. So as a kid, I remember doing karate. That was one of my favorite things to do.
Yep.
And I ended up stopping karate when I started high school. But during primary school, that was kind of like, I was just this energetic, hyper kid. I needed always something to do, something. I couldn't sit still in a classroom.
What form of karate did you do?
It was a Kyokushin.
Yep.
So you just, just that kind of.
Were they quite, was the training quite hard there? So typically, like Kyokushin guys, sparring is kicks to the head, hands to the body, no hands to the face, no gloves, no shin pads.
Yeah. So I actually never did any sparring.
Oh,
it was
wow.
only like drills and,
Okay.
and
cutters.
It was and cutters. It was part of school, so
Yep.
it was like a school program. It wasn't like outside of extracurricular.
Yeah. What do you remember any of the cutters that they taught you?
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's funny because I did karate as a kid as well, and for my parents it was because I was a bit of a, I would say the word is a faker. Like, so as a kid I was hyper, and whenever I got myself into a bad situation I would like just cry to get myself out of it. So I wasn't really like, it was like fake tears, crocodile tears basically.
Yeah.
And so I think my parents, well, my mum like called my bluff at around 4 years of age, and then enrolled me into karate to try and toughen me up, to make me less of a crybaby.
Yep.
I've always been really into my martial arts ever since. So that was how I sort of got into it. I was training at a place, I think it's still around. I think it was called Goshin Khan. It was like it's an Okinawan style of karate. So there's different, I guess, areas of Japan where karate, has come from. It was pretty interesting. That was like my first sort of introduction to martial arts. And then after, when we moved houses, like we changed places. So I stopped doing any martial arts for a period of time before I found Kung Fu. And that was like the last 20 odd years of my life. And then I've been doing, MMA and jiu-jitsu and all that sort of stuff in between. So, tell me more about, in high school. When you made that switch, what was that like, changing schools in year 10? I went to the same high school from 7 through to 12, so I never really had to experience that. But obviously we had people come into our school in year 10, and I never really thought about, what it would feel like from that other perspective.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think the change for me was actually worked out better for me.
Okay.
As a kid in high school from year 7 to year 10, I got myself into a lot of trouble.
Yep.
So
what kind of trouble? Fights?
I mean, like anything, like you name it, just fights and just not listening to teachers. And I was very distracted and kind of had no direction. So I found myself getting pulled wherever, the cool kids went or wherever. So I think changing to the school in Menai, where there was a large sense of community, it really brought out another side of me, and I think almost calmed me down a little bit. I think it was it worked out for the better, changing to the school in Menai. So
And was that instigated by your parents, or was that something that you wanted to do, or was there a particular reason why you changed schools?
It was actually instigated by my parents. So at the time, I was getting myself into a lot of trouble, and they said, "Okay, I think you need to change. Like, this school's not working out well for you."
Yep. You're getting pulled with the wrong crowds.
Exactly. I mean, they pulled me out. I changed schools, and from the get go, it wasn't really hard to fit in because everyone was so welcoming at the new school. So I think like I find most kids that are like troublemakers, they don't really have bad intentions. They just have a lot of energy that's like misguided somewhere, and sometimes it can be pulled in the wrong direction. So
cultivated in the wrong way.
Exactly.
Was it hard to leave the friends that you had made at the other school? Like, was that something that I guess at the time, speaking to how you felt, did that make you feel like, were you angry at your parents that they wanted to pull you out of your school, or were you actually inside, were you actually grateful and happy to get out of that environment because you were like, oh, this isn't really me, but
Yeah, I was pretty angry with my parents because at the time, I just wanted to be that guy, the cool guy in school and feel good. And but yeah, I was very angry with them. But as soon as I moved schools, it my
your outlook changed.
Outlook changed on that. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And then so in terms of subjects that you studied for years 11 and 12, what did you study?
Sorry, one sec. I've left my phone on rudely,
It's all right. These things happen from time to time.
and I constantly get calls all day. So I need to turn my phone off.
Yeah. I usually so when I do these podcasts, when my phone goes off, I just let it vibrate in my pocket, and then try and carry on. It's almost like a test of willpower to see, how well you can stay focused when you have distractions ongoing.
When you got that vibrating phone.
Yeah. As long as people can't hear it, I'm pretty cool with that. Yeah. So So from a subject perspective, what did you study and what did you choose, and was there any particular reason why you chose those subjects?
So in high school, I chose pretty much the basic subjects. I chose business, commerce, and then the standards, maths and English, and also did visual arts as well.
Okay. So from a visual arts perspective, like what was your interest there? Were you good at drawing, or what was it?
I love comic books and I love drawing comics. So that's what drew me to that.
Yeah. Which any particular style of comics?
More like manga style.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's like, I think I was into manga. I still am into like One Piece.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like obviously it's changed a lot over the years. Like Naruto, One Piece, like they were the main ones that everybody sort of read.
Yeah.
And then Bleach, but that sort of went really awkward. I find it's very hard for those things to stay continuing long term, because like it starts to get a bit patchy. Like the story it doesn't stay coherent because they keep looking for the next thing to sort of push things along.
Yep.
It's almost akin to, when you try and watch Dragon Ball as an anime and then there's like 4 episodes of Goku powering up,
The Spirit Bomb, which was like one whole season.
Yeah, it's like a total, like it really takes away from the experience.
Yeah.
It's probably different like if you could watch the whole thing from start to finish, but when you wait, to watch that episode and then that episode is literally nothing happened, there's no plot progression, you're just like, what the hell? Like, I've just wasted my life.
Yeah. They needed to like fill in extra episodes, so they drag it out.
Drag it out, the fillers, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And then, so, did you have any idea what you wanted to do when you left high school?
So at the time, I remember very clearly actually when everyone was deciding their career paths in year 12 and deciding what they wanted to do. I felt very lost. I had no direction. Nothing interested me within like the university degrees. So I ended up going to do my Bachelor of Commerce, doing a majors in management and finance. And
Which uni?
UTS.
At UTS.
Yeah, so I kind of just chose that as, a safe option, something that I can branch out to.
Yep.
But yeah, nothing really interested me during that time. Yeah.
And from your parents' perspective, was there any direction from them? Like, did they have a direction that they wanted you to go?
I think they never really pushed me in a certain direction, but they wanted me to complete a university degree. And they wanted me to, further my education. So that's what I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you got any siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger sister.
Younger sister.
Yeah.
And what's the age gap between you?
5 years. So she's younger than me.
Yep. Okay. And what was that dynamic like growing up with a sister who was? So I guess the reason why I say that is I often talk about that I've got a brother who's 7 years older than me, and so when I was growing up, here I am a 7-year-old wanting to do 14-year-old things because that's what my brother was doing.
Yep.
I guess what was it like in terms of the dynamic between you and your sister?
So me and my sister were very close throughout. When I was in high school, I was more of like the older brother, like I got to look after you.
Yep.
Kind of thing. So I was always kind of like taking on that caring kind of role.
Yep.
When we were younger, I remember I used to be like a massive pest towards her and just always wanted like bug her, tease her, that kind of thing, as you do as kids. But as we kind of grew older, I'm not sure where it came from, but I always was kind of like looking after her and just making sure she's going in the right direction.
Yeah. So the dynamic changed a lot.
Yeah, I'd say it changed a lot from primary to high school and then to now as well.
Yeah. And so are you guys still close now?
Yeah, we're close now.
Yeah.
She's our social media manager for Duo.
Okay.
So yeah, we work very closely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't get away.
Yeah.
All right. So you also got to be careful what you say. So we'll move along. Okay, and then so you went to uni, you're studying commerce, majoring in management and accounting.
Finance.
And finance, sorry. And so, you know, where does Duo fit into this? Was this after uni? Was this, you know, did you have ideas during uni or?
Yeah. So I was always really drawn to, I guess you could say, entrepreneurship and, you know, people running their own businesses. It really started in year 12 when I felt like I had no direction. I'd say during that time, I just became really interested in people that had their own businesses. And I just kept that in the back of my mind always. And it was something that I always knew I wanted to do.
Yep.
I was that kid that would have like a notebook with like 100 business ideas.
Yep.
Just like I would just write them down and I would just come up with ideas and I'd bring it up to my friends and I'd say, hey, like this is the new idea. Like this is it.
Yeah.
So I only started Duo 2 years after uni, after working in corporate for a bit. And I guess, yeah, so entrepreneurship's been something that's been in the works for a long time. And I only actioned it probably 2 years after finishing my degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things I want to unpack there. Was there any particular person that was an influence in terms of the entrepreneurship thing? Like, was there, you know, did you see something that you liked the sound of and that's what got you interested, or what was it that sort of piqued your interest?
I'd say I knew what I didn't like, and that was working in an office, doing more of like the 9 to 5. So I definitely knew what I didn't want. And then from there, I started to research what other people were doing. And then one business in particular that really interested me, which might be a bit surprising, but they're called the Daily Edited.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a leather fashion accessories company.
Okay.
It's run by a girl named Alice Tran.
Okay.
So she would have been about the same age as me, probably 27, I think, when she first started the business. And they kind of just like interrupted their industry and were really creative in what they did. And those are the kind of businesses that really interested me. So, yeah, I think that's what kind of got me hooked. And then from there, just did more and more research. And yeah.
So in terms of like, you know, what sort of influences you now? Like, do you listen to a lot of podcasts? Do you watch YouTube stuff? Like, what sort of, do you read a lot of books? Like, where do you draw those influences from now?
Right now, I do a lot of reading and podcasts as well.
Yep.
Those are kind of like my two mediums.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of podcasters, who do you like?
Yeah. Tim Ferriss.
Yep.
And I'd say Joe Rogan is a pretty good one.
Yep. I think they're like the male staples.
Yeah, definitely. They hit me at like the right times, I think. So yeah, really good.
Yeah, I think, you know, I always credit podcasts as being one of the reasons I chose to, you know, expand my horizons a lot. Just because I think, you know, there's something very intimate about being able to listen to somebody else's conversation and pick up, you know, some of the different perspectives. And you're not invested in the conversation where you need to interject with something to say. You can actually hear it out from both sides and then decide which to you felt more reasonable.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of the time, you know, when you do get involved in a conversation and let's say the conversation gets heated, you're not actually looking at it objectively anymore because you feel like you're invested in this conversation.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when you depending on how much you consume, like I have this thing where I listen to all my podcasts at 2 times speed.
Yeah.
And I've tried like playing snippets for some of my staff members and managers of some things that I've really liked, and they've sort of looked at me and they go, Johnny, I didn't understand a word that was said.
That's really fast,
right?
Yeah.
So, but like I've become accustomed to it.
Okay.
So much so that, you know, like when you listen to Joe Rogan on 2 times speed, it sounds like a really intellectual conversation.
Yeah.
And then when you turn it back to 1 speed, and he talks, you know, really like his cadence is very slow, but it's very conversational. And makes it really easy to understand, but you almost feel like, oh, it sounds a bit stonerish.
Yeah, right.
But that's just because I'm so used to listening to things at 2 times speed. And so then I think that also impacts, you know, when I speak and when I deliver things, I'm always talking at this really fast tempo.
Yeah.
because that's how I listen to and take in the information.
Yeah, definitely.
Tim Ferriss, I think, also, as a podcaster, has had so many great people on his podcast, and I actually I read his, I've read his books, well, a couple of his books. So 4 Hour Work Week, 4 Hour Body, and I think I got his book Tool of the Titans, where he sort of unpacks and has like the individual sections for each of the people that he's interviewed.
Yep.
And I think there's definitely something that you can learn from anyone who's an expert in their field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I like to try and look for is, where are those things that we can translate that's best practice in one industry and then potentially take that to a different industry.
Yeah. I find Tim Ferriss is really amazing for that, and like the way he extracts, people's like routines and just the minor things that they do that lead to like the really big things later on.
Yeah. His podcasts, they get quite specific.
Yeah.
Exactly. His line of questioning is always very specific around, what is their best practices, and he typically has consistent themes for his lines of questioning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, what does your first hour of your day look like?
Yeah.
Those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I feel like those little things like really do make a difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I want to, and the other thing I want to unpack that you mentioned was that you spent a couple of years in corporate. So where did you work?
Worked at PayPal in sales team.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. And so tell me how did you get that job?
I just applied for a bunch of roles, got a few offers, and went to all the interviews. And out of all of them, I think I really liked the team and the role that they proposed me with. So end up choosing with PayPal. They were more of like a tech-ish company, so I liked the culture that they had as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so then when you started, you would have had, I guess, one idea of what this corporate work world is going to look like. And then obviously towards the end, you would have been like, no, this is not what I want to do. Talk to me about that shift. Like can you label when that happened, or was there something specific that happened that caused that shift in mentality, or was that just a natural progression that you felt?
You mean my shift from not wanting to work in corporate to doing my own business?
Yeah.
So I think I knew from like high school that that's not what I wanted to do. I'm not sure where it came from, but I'm like, I don't want to work in 9 to 5. I want to be my own boss. Yeah. And it just stuck with me. When I actually worked in corporate, I actually found out it was not that bad. It was actually a pretty good lifestyle.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah, and it changed my worldviews a bit around that as well. So, but at the end of the day, I still knew that like I wanted to do my own business. Yeah. But yeah, I think that experience definitely helped me in a lot of ways. And yeah, it definitely changed my worldview on what it's like to work at a really good company. Yeah.
And was there anything that PayPal did extraordinarily well that has sort of stuck with you? And so as you go to build your business, is there any elements that you try and instill in your business?
Yeah, definitely. So I think they had a strong focus on building teams and bonding with teams. So we would constantly have team outings, and they would make it a bit more personal rather than just a work relationship. So that's something that I want to instill in our team. So just for example, yesterday we had a team outing at Sky Zone. So we're jumping on the trampolines for like an hour yesterday with our team. But yeah, I think something like that is super important when you're running a team and keeping up that morale.
I think there's also different stages to it as well. So, I think when you're in a startup situation, when you're just starting a business, you really want to get that vibe and that feel, because every member that you've got is probably an integral member because your team's so small. And then I think as business progresses, sometimes and I think Gary Vee probably talked about this in one of his podcasts about it, how then there's a shift that you have to make, because the culture that you instill in the startup culture, where you just do whatever you can to make it work. As business gets more and more successful, you now need to be able to move to that next level and hold people accountable for what they should and shouldn't be doing. And sometimes that part of it is hard to undo. Have you experienced any of that in your business here?
Yeah, definitely. So when we first started, it was me and Dylan, my business partner.
Yep.
And it was just us two. And now we have a team of 30. So
Yep.
we've grown over 3 years.
Yep.
But we've definitely seen like a massive shift. So at first, it's just me and Dylan. We're both
Yep.
driven.
Yep.
There's no need to muck around per
Yep.
se. But once you start to grow your team and you have more people that are under you and that are accountable for their actions, you need to start building a culture that's like, I guess, instills extreme ownership. And extreme ownership is something I take from Jocko Willink. So he's like a ex
Gorilla of a jiu-jitsu guy.
yeah, Navy SEAL. yeah. So he's kind of like really shaped my views on leadership.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just been a really impactful person.
So okay, let's talk about, I guess, the genesis then of Duo. So how did that conversation come up between you and Dylan to go, okay, let's do this?
Yep.
Yeah,
so me and Dylan have he was like my partner in crime in terms of coming up with ideas. So we would always go back and forth with ideas. And we never actually did anything for 3 years until finally we just kind of had this one idea. It's like, hey, I felt like no one was really doing fried ice cream well. You could only get it in Chinese restaurants for dessert, and it would be with your regular home brand ice cream, and it's just something that they just make as like a little addition to the meal. So I personally love that dessert so much, and I feel like it didn't have the attention it deserves. So that's kind of like where the idea sprouted from, and we just went ahead with it and started learning about ice cream. And so
when you guys, so obviously there would have been a period there where you guys are just researching before you start. What were some of the things that you looked at? And I guess, was the food truck the first venture, or was there iterations before that, before you got to the food truck?
So it was a lot of researching. We thought ice cream was easy.
Yep.
We soon found out that is the complete opposite.
Yep.
And it took us about a year to kind of learn like a beginner level of what ice cream was actually about and actually like make the recipes. And we found that the food truck was a really low cost entry point for us to get into the market, rather than having to start up, a store with a retail fit out. So we kind of chose that because we didn't have the budget. And that was what led us to going down the food truck path, and it's still with us today.
So what differentiates, let's just talk about ice cream here for a second. What do you think differentiates, I guess, standard ice cream from premium ice cream?
There's a few factors that go into it. So if you take, for example, a ice cream tub that you buy at the supermarket versus an ice cream tub that you might buy with us or with Gelato Messina or anywhere else, it's the air that's pumped into it. So all ice cream has a certain amount of air that gives its lightness and its fluffiness. With supermarkets, they usually pump about 100% air into theirs. With regular shops, they will do around about 30%. So say for example, if you purchase like a 1 liter tub from Woolworths, 100, like there'll be 50% in there that's actually air. So if you hold a 1 liter tub, it won't be even like 500 grams. It'll be a lot less. So it's kind of like the creaminess and the mouthfeel that you get from something that's not as pumped heavily with air.
Okay. And then is there any difference in terms of like so obviously the air thing is a manufacturing process. What about from the ingredients perspective? Like, did you guys have to go and try and find all these different ingredients to go and put together, or how do you differentiate those things?
Yeah, definitely. So that was one of the things that was most important to us, which was using high quality and fresh ingredients. Because I feel like a lot of places take shortcuts, and you can use a flavoring which is a lot cheaper and taste 90% there. Whereas with all our flavors, we will use real fruits and real leaves, real tea leaves, and take the extract from there rather than just using like a syrup.
Okay.
So and that little bit extra is a lot extra hard work, but it yields a lot better product.
Yeah. So you would actually have to extract the flavors out of those products yourself?
Yeah. So for example, if we do a Earl Grey tea flavor, we'll brew the tea leaves ourselves.
Yep.
And then we'll infuse that into the ice cream mix rather than just pouring in a tea flavored syrup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just mixing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, when you were in this, like, I guess, in this initial phase, so let's talk about it, pre-food truck, right? So you probably then try to come up with all these different recipes.
Yep.
It's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of ice cream tastings for family and friends.
Yes, it was a lot, and it was not good for my belly. But it was a fun year of tasting, and we're still tasting today. So
yeah. So did you from an equipment point of view, was there a lot of equipment that you had to organise for that, or is ice cream relatively low equipment heavy?
It's very high equipment heavy. Yeah, unfortunately. So there's a lot of equipment that goes into it. It's not just like your ice cream churner, but you need something to cook the milk and pasteurize everything. And there's quite a bit that goes into it.
So then, so when you guys were, when you were like doing all your tests and things like that, did you buy commercial grade equipment at the start, or did you just like we'll try and do it with this and see how it goes, and then upgrade from there? Like, what was your strategy?
So our strategy was actually we invested a little bit into the commercial grade equipment because it allowed us to do things at a lot faster pace, and we would get the actual product using something that's commercial versus like a household ice cream machine yields a lot of different products. So when you're trying to achieve like the extra like 1% of perfection, you need that commercial equipment. Yeah.
Yep. And then was there anybody guiding you through that? Like, so, obviously when the moment you go to buy anything, like, and I use computers as an example. If you go to buy a computer, you can either, buy the computer off the shelf that's already pre-built, or you can go to like a computer store, select out all the hardware that you want.
Go down that rabbit
hole and then, research each individual part and try and read all the reviews and all the tests and the benchmarking to then work out what's best. Like, what was did you guys, have somebody to guide you through that, or you just were like, oh, fuck it, we'll just go with this one?
Unfortunately, with us, the only person that was guiding us was the salesman, and he guided us down a very expensive route, which now looking back, it was a mistake at the beginning, but there was only one way to learn. And if we spent all our time pondering and researching, and it would have just put us into like paralysis, and we wouldn't have done anything.
Analysis paralysis. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was a lesson learned. But
was he a good salesman?
Oh, it was cracker.
I'll have to get his details. I'll see if he wants a job in the car industry.
Yeah. He had a heavy Italian accent. He knew gelato, and he knew how to sell.
Yeah. So and then straight away, because he's Italian and he's talking about gelato, you guys are like, oh yeah, this guy sounds like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. I was amazed by him, but he was a good salesman.
Did you guys do any? I guess when you talk about ice cream, obviously there's competition in ice cream. Probably not so much in the deep fried ice cream space. Did you guys go in it with the idea of mainly focusing on deep fried ice cream, or were you thinking about ice cream at the same time as well?
We were thinking about ice cream as well. We found fried ice cream was a really good talking point for us because it was something that no one had ever done before.
Yep.
But ice cream was always like we wanted to move even past ice cream into just desserts. But as to start, we were like, yes, okay, we want to do the best deep fried ice cream there is, and we also want to make the best ice cream flavors that are inspired by Asian flavors.
Okay.
Because we felt like there was a missing market there.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think most mass manufacturers now have cottoned onto that. With the green teas and the black sesames and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But definitely from a bespoke, market, I think definitely that's been a great market for you. So I guess where did the food truck come into this? So you spent a year testing your products and trying to get to a beginner level of making ice cream and all this sort of stuff. when did you guys then go, okay, well, we're gonna have to get into the markets and then pull the trigger on a food truck? Like obviously that's another capital investment, right? Yep. So what was the trigger for you guys to say we're ready?
There was, I think we did, there was a week where we did a testing with all our friends and family, and then we did like friends and family and their friends, and then we got pretty good reviews. So we're like, okay, let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, there was no more waiting. Like I was just so eager at that time. Like it had already been a year. I wanted to get it out like within I thought it was going to take us like a few months.
Yep.
But it ended up taking us a year, and then so we were just super eager to get out there and just pull the trigger.
So at this point, had you already stopped working? So
yeah.
Yep.
So I quit probably about 3 months before starting.
Yeah.
I knew like once we had the recipes like 90% there, I was like, okay, we're gonna do it. Like,
Yep.
That's it. I don't want to sit on the fence and do half.
You went all in.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah.
It's one of those things that can be a trap because if like for a lot of guys in corporate, you get to a point where it's almost like the golden handcuffs. You've got great income coming in. You probably got a fairly decent lifestyle to go and I guess push all that aside to take a risk.
Yep.
It's very daunting.
Yeah, because you've already got everything. Like you're so comfortable,
Yeah.
right? So it's hard to just quit and start up with nothing.
Yeah.
And,
I've seen a similar thing in the automotive industry. So obviously I've been in the automotive industry since like 2003 or 4. Time gets away from me now, but when I left, because I went to corporate, so I started in a dealership, did my apprenticeship and got my trade certificates and all that, and then I went to Toyota Motor Corporation in the corporate side.
Yep.
And that was actually really good. I enjoyed corporate a lot. And I think, for me, I always had it in my mind that, I would have to make a decision at the 5-year mark to decide, am I going to stay in corporate for the long term? Or do I want to go back out to retail? And I think for me, like I got very frustrated in corporate because I think, at a certain level, there's always a point where, you may not agree with the decision, but because it's the company's direction, you have to, toe the line. And that didn't really, not to say it didn't sit right with me. It just, I guess being young and egotistical, I thought I knew better.
Yep.
And so I would always be very passionate about the things that I believed in. And I think, to a point, probably to my own detriment at some points, right? So when I was actually, and looking back on it now, like I think for me to get out when I did was probably at the right level, because it allowed me to move back into retail at a level where like I wasn't so high in corporate that it's like those roles are beneath me.
Yep.
So almost like I could approach it with a fresh pair of eyes, be fresh in back into the retail space and just, engaged and wanting to learn. Whereas I think, sometimes if you've been in corporate for too long, it's going to make that jump a lot harder because everything's so comfortable, everything. And then it's such a big transition, it's almost like switching industries, even though they're both automotive. Corporate and retail is when you start going down like the forked road, it's like gi jiu-jitsu and no gi jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right. You can say, oh, it's all, from the surface to somebody who doesn't train and doesn't look at it. It's all the same.
It's all jiu-jitsu.
It's all jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right. But then at the when you look at the top levels of how people perform, they're two very distinct games. It'd be like saying that like boxing and kickboxing, the best boxer in the world is going to be the best kickboxer. Like they're two totally distinct and separate forms of the same industry. So likewise, I think, for me getting out at the level that I did was better for my career in the long run, because I wasn't, at that point where I'm shackled and go, oh, I'm so comfortable. It's, such a big transition. It was easy for me to then take that motivation, and passion and inject it into that.
Yeah, you're still like hungry during that
Yeah.
time, and you hadn't like been satisfied by
Yeah.
what you like. You're
not complacent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how did you guys then with the food truck? Like, was that something that you guys had to design, or did you buy an existing food truck, or how did you come up with that?
So we worked with a a food truck manufacturer on the design for us and the right fit out for basically what we needed to fry ice creams. And then we just got a designer to design the artwork for the outside, slap that on the truck, and then we were good to go.
And then was there anything that after you guys made the truck and, you're doing, let's talk about your first event.
Yep.
Right? How chaotic was it?
Oh my God. So this is a funny story, but if we actually rewind to the day we got the food truck handed to us and I got the keys, we got in the car and hooked it on, and I looked at Dylan and I realized neither of us knew how to drive a trailer. I had a 3-ton trailer on the back of me in St. Mary's and had to drive it back to Marrickville. So we had no idea. I took it for a few laps around the street, probably going like 30 k's an hour and just freaking out. And then we just took the plunge and I ended up driving it back to Marrickville. It was all good. But reversing the trailer was actually a whole different story. Yep. So once we got there and I needed to park it, that was when the freak out started. We were just like, why is it going the other way?
Yep.
So for people that haven't ever driven a trailer before, when you reverse it, the trailer goes the opposite way, so you have to turn the steering wheel the opposite way.
That's right.
And we were just freaking out. I didn't know how to drive it. So
and you would have been turning, thinking that I'm going to hook it to the left, and then the trailer's going the opposite way. You're going, what?
Exactly. And we were just like, this trailer has a mind of its own. We don't know how to park it. That was a fun experience. And then on the day of our first opening, it was opening at 6 p.m. So we got there nice and early, probably around about 4:30.
Yep.
And everything was set up. We were all good to go. And then because we do deep fried ice cream, we have to turn on the deep fryer.
Yep.
And we realized we don't know how to turn on a deep fryer. Yeah. And it was like 5:45. I had no idea how to turn on a deep fryer. So that was another freak out. And luckily one of the guys came over and helped us out.
Okay.
So a lot of fun experiences like that. It's just little things that you expect. So, it's just opening up a food truck. You're just selling ice cream. Like, how hard could it be? But there's like little minute details. It's just like, yeah.
So, so where was the first event that you guys ever did?
So it was at Flemington Night Markets. Okay. It was something that they were running, I think, a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if it's still open now, but it was just a congregation of food trucks and market stalls, and
And so was that something that, did you have to pay to be a part of that?
Yeah, so they would charge you like a rent for the night.
Yep. Okay. And then did that then introduce you to a whole bunch of other, food truck people? Like, is there a community around that, or?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of, there's definitely a food truck community. So I got to learn a lot about like food trucks and just speaking to people about it. So that's kind of like how I learned. We never really we're taught like, how to operate a food truck or anything like that. It was just more like learning from other people's experiences.
Yep. It's funny actually. It's one of those ways of learning where you're gonna have the fastest learning curve because you're just thrown straight into the deep end.
Yep.
It's not for everyone. Like, I think, for most people, if you get thrown in that situation, it's probably more stressful than anything else. Yep. But at the same time, once you've gone through it, then there's a lot there that you just sort of, become very grateful for.
Yeah, definitely. And it almost like it lets you test your ability to operate under stress as well, like being just thrown into the deep end, and you get to practice that over and over again.
Yeah.
And then you just become inoculated with it and you're just comfortable in those situations.
So then, okay, so was there anything when you've used the food truck for the first time that you realized, shit, we didn't design this, ideally? Like, is there things that you would change, or do you think you actually did a pretty good job up front and you got it like 99% perfect?
To be honest, it's probably like 70% perfect. There's a few things I'd like to change about it, but for the most part, I'm happy with it. But if we get into it, like I'd like to change the design and where things are. But you make do with what you have and you get creative.
Was that just from a flow perspective? Like, do you think, so that 30%, is that more around operational efficiency? So when you're operating the truck, if you had things laid out slightly different, it would benefit the speed of which you can get ice creams out, or
exactly. And more like usage of space and how much stock we can fit on a certain night. And Yeah, and if I'd go back, I'd probably get it on an actual truck rather than a trailer.
Yeah. So
Just
actually
to-
do it as in a truck.
Yeah, just to make it a bit easier to move around.
Move around.
Yeah,
Yeah, because then otherwise you always need to have the vehicle to tow it, right?
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so at what point? I guess how many events in did you and Dylan sort of think, hey, we're onto something. We can expand this.
So we did events, I'd say, for about 8 or 9 months, I think it was at the time.
Yep.
And then I was introduced to a friend who also owned a burger truck.
Yep.
It's called Baby Ray's.
Mhm.
And he kind of learnt how to operate a burger truck from Mr. G's.
Yep.
So he had his own location. He opened up in Bankstown at the time, and he asked us if we wanted to join him.
Yep.
So we were like, yeah, like let's give it a go. And from there, we grew up a really consistent customer base.
Yep.
And we just found we didn't need to go back to like the food markets and all that to get our customers. So yeah, we just kind of stuck with that. And then, yeah.
Okay. And then when it came to getting other people to help you at the truck,
Yep.
was that I guess at what point were you guys comfortable to make that decision where it's like, okay, I think we need to hire somebody now to help us manage the work?
Yeah. So at first it was me and our partners basically helping us.
Yep.
And then we needed help from the start very early because we just couldn't. It was decently busy from the start, and we didn't have me and Dylan just couldn't be the ones doing everything. So we made a few hires like early on. Yeah.
And okay, what did your parents say about this? Like,
They when I first told them, they thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
Especially my grandma. So yeah, she wasn't happy about it. But I'd say a year in, they started to warm up a lot.
Yeah.
Just from seeing us doing decently well and being somewhat busy. So
Yeah.
they warmed up a lot to the idea, and yeah. But at the start, it was hard to convince them.
Yeah. I think the first difficult conversation would have been when you quit,
Yes,
right? And then they would have gone, "What's wrong with you?"
that's right.
Yeah.
So my parents are very traditional. Like they like the safe route, and it's like, hey, like you've got a good job now. You're earning like decent money, and you're gonna leave all this to sell ice cream. It's like it's crazy, but yeah, that was the conversation I had to have.
And then when you guys then started growing, I guess you're beginning to get a bit of a following. Was there any point where you guys were like, oh, do we get another truck, or like, how did you decide what the next step was?
Yeah, so it was. We've always thought about getting another truck, and I think one thing that really changed our perspective was when we moved more into the wholesale side of things, and we realized that was a great way for us to reach a lot of people. So I think that really changed our perspective and also the direction of our business as well.
Yep.
So I think that's what influenced us not to get a second truck.
Yep. So okay, so then how did the wholesale thing come about? Did people reach out and say, hey, we'd like to supply your products, or was that something that you guys then go, oh, I think we should get into this space? Like, which way did it sort of come about?
It was actually both. So me and Dylan had always been like, yeah, we're going to move into the wholesale space. And then we got a few people reaching out to us asking for wholesale. So we just started up that way. And then proactively we just started going out and trying to get more customers, and it grew from there.
Yep. And so I guess speaking about responsibility split, right? Do you and Dylan, have, I guess, very different skills? Like, do you guys focus on different aspects of the business, or you both try and do everything together? Like, how do you guys break that up?
Yeah, so it's a pretty much complete split. So Dylan will take care of the manufacturing and production side.
Yep.
And I'll take care of the marketing sales side.
Okay.
And just kind of like driving the wholesale as well.
Yep. So did you spend a lot of time, out on the road trying to find new people to sell to, or was it a lot of time on the phones? Like, what was your method of prospecting?
For me, prospecting, I like to go in person.
Yep.
With the actual product so they can taste it and understand it.
Yep.
So Yeah, that was my main method, just on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With tubs of ice cream.
Yep.
Yeah?
Still am on the road.
And that's what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And well, like what sort of generally, like, you know, has there been a time where, like, have you had a disaster where it's like, you know, you've gone and see someone and you were like, this meeting just went the absolute worst way it could possibly have gone?
I think I've been pretty lucky with that, actually. Most people have been willing to take us on because we have an existing brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say fingers crossed. I've been quite blessed to not have any like blow ups yet.
I think, you know, when you're coming around with ice cream, like, it's one of those things, unless somebody is like averse to ice cream or lactose intolerant, like, typically you're going to be pretty welcoming of a guy that brings you ice cream.
Exactly. I'm bringing joy. Like, how could you be mad?
It's quite the opposite in the car industry, where when people come to your dealership to get upset with you because, you know, you're trying to sell them a car.
Yeah. There's a bit of stigma.
You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
like they've come to look at a vehicle and purchase a vehicle, but they're more than happy to get upset with us because they want to buy a car.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's probably not quite that simple, but yeah, there's a lot of things that we try and do in our business to I guess, you know, alleviate some of those frustrations. Like I typically, you know, sort of draw it out on a chart of like what people's stress levels look like versus what stage of the buying process they're at.
Yeah.
And you can generally find, like, you know, when people first walk into our businesses in automotive, they're typically, you know, they're on high alert because they feel like, oh, you know, I'm walking into a car yard, I'm going to get sold to, you know. And then once they start talking to someone and they realize, oh, this person's normal, like, you know, they're no real different to me or my family, the stress levels start to come down. And then, you know, there's probably like the lowest part of the stress levels is probably just before we go on a test drive. And then for some people, obviously, they get quite stressed out when they're driving somebody else's car or a car that they've never experienced before. And then the moment you come back to then talk about numbers and figures, well, the stress levels are like through the roof.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, I guess, you know, for our business, you know, we have to try and work around that and understand, you know, that's the natural reaction. And our job is to try and allay people's concerns and help them to try and identify, you know, what is important to them and what's not important to them, and try and take them through that process. Have you ever worked out, you know, what your, I guess, sales process for ice cream is? Do you have a process, or is it, you know?
Yeah, so I think the process for me would be firstly, like, discovery of who we are and our brand and what we're about, and then the tasting point of view, and then from there it's kind of like reassuring that, I guess, for the wholesale side of things, what's most important to supermarkets is that they want to know that their stock is going to turn over. They don't want to have like this ice cream sitting in their freezer for like a year or whatever. So I basically just tell them, look, if it doesn't sell, then more than happy to take the stock back, because it's a lose-lose for both of us. If it's not selling, it's not worth it for us as well. So I kind of like just try to build the trust there. And I think the fact that we have an existing brand and, you know, a decent amount of people know who we are kind of really helps that as well, kind of convey the point that, okay, there are a lot of customers searching for our brand and our product over, you know, like this random new ice cream brand that's just come out. Yeah. So, I think that helps us a lot.
And did you ever have any like distributors wanting to like say, you know, oh, let me add you to our portfolio and we'll distribute for you, and obviously we want to take a clip as a result of it? Like, did that come up?
Yeah, definitely. So we've had quite a few distributors come through to us.
Yep.
At the moment, I think we've just decided to do it ourselves.
Yep.
Because I think we can, and we have the infrastructure to do so. Like, we have the delivery vans, and we have myself as a salesman, and I'm confident that I can go out as well and get those customers without the distributor. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, you know, it's almost like, you know, when you think about the music industry, you know, like they used to have the middleman because, you know, you need a distributor to go and get your music out there.
Yep.
And then now, you know, you can almost go direct, you know, because people can listen on YouTube or SoundCloud for new music and things like that, and Spotify. You know, it's so easy to get a song loaded on Spotify. You know, it's almost like, what do you pay these people for now? But obviously they serve a purpose too, right? Like, there's distributors that can piece together all of these really niche and esoteric things that you wouldn't otherwise think about. So they give those people an opportunity to get their products across to a larger market too. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm always very curious about that.
I think the barriers to entry are a lot easier these days,
Yep.
especially with things like music and just online things. In the food industry, I say distributors still have a massive part in that role because
Yep.
As someone with like a brand that you've just started going out to supermarkets,
Yep.
it's actually very hard to kind of get your name out there unless you have the connections.
Yep.
So yeah, I think they definitely still play a big part in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about your suppliers. Like, so how did you then work out to? Because obviously, you guys are doing a process to then turn it into deep fried ice cream or whatever, and then obviously on selling. How did you start to build those connections with your suppliers to get all your ingredients and those sorts of things?
We've kind of built them over time. Like
Yep.
to start, we just kind of went to whoever was the closest because we were just ordering, a couple crates of milk a week. And then slowly you kind of get inquiries from suppliers wanting to come in and show you like what they can do and see if they can supply you. So we've built some good relationships over the years with suppliers that, that now just work with us for everything we need. So, yeah.
And then, throughout, obviously, with this whole COVID time this year, what's been the impact on your business throughout that?
I'd say I've been pretty blessed with the COVID side of things. When COVID first hit around March, I was like, okay, this thing's not looking good. Like we need to do something really early. So straight away, I was like, okay, let's try sell ice cream online.
Yep.
So I thought that was just a way to, we could deliver it Sydney-wide and, people can just get it delivered to their door. They don't have to leave their house.
Yep.
So that was what we did really early. I built up a website probably in like a week and then we just started selling online and it went really well. So that helped us a lot during that time. And yeah, so I'd say I've been pretty lucky not to be affected by COVID as much. I've got a lot of mates in the hospitality industry that are doing it pretty tough. During that time. So
absolutely,
yeah, we'll dodge the bullet with that one.
Yep. So when it came to the online stuff, like, did you engage a supplier or did you play around with it yourself? Like, how did you? So when it came to building the website, who organised that, or how did you do that?
I just built it myself on Shopify. So yeah, just super easy. Just like drag and drop, and you could just piece everything together.
Yep.
It was a bit of a hack job at first, but we played around with it, and it's looking like decent now. So yeah.
I think every business had to have that pivot point, because when you realize, oh, this is changing the landscape. So as an example, restaurants very quickly had to move to being able to do takeaway.
Yep.
One of my good mates, Narada, who has Yan restaurant, they were doing takeaway and offering a discount on takeaway as well.
Yeah.
So they had to pivot their products because the dining experience when you go there is fantastic. And then to not be able to have as many people in the door, you now need to have other incremental revenue streams to supplement it. Otherwise, you're going to have to let people go.
Yeah. If you can't, if you're not willing to change your business and just complain during that time, then your business is going to get affected.
You got to be flexible.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I feel like with all restaurants, they've now started takeaway, and it's just something we have to do now.
Yep. Okay. And then so from a life perspective, like, would you say that you've found a good work-life balance now, or is there still things that you're trying to? Okay, actually, let's go back a step. Do you actually even believe in work-life balance?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think I think it's really important. Like whatever you do, I feel like you have to do it well, and I feel like you can you can burn out yourself really easily if it's just all work.
Yeah.
Some people, like maybe not myself, but some people can just like be animals and work like 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
And just those like Gary V kind of guys.
Yeah.
I personally myself, I need to switch off.
Yep.
And then come back refreshed.
Yeah. It's a bit. I always find it's somewhat misleading when people are like, oh, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. But if you're doing that for 12 hours a day, you're probably gonna get sick of that too.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like even if it's something you love, there's always going to be something like within that job that's like you're not going to love. Like it can't just always be like, I completely love this. Even if I don't know, there's going to be little parts in there that you're not going to enjoy all the time. So
I always have this, because I love martial arts, right?
Yeah.
And so but would I be able to do it on a full-time basis? That's one of the things that I always wrestle with. Like I quite enjoy being able to have an eclectic mix of things to do.
Yep.
It'd probably benefit me from a time perspective because, if I wasn't working in the automotive industry, I'd have a lot more time for that.
Yep.
But I quite enjoy, I think what I enjoy now about about the automotive industry is developing people. Like I get to build a team and a lot of those things that I actually do at work, I try and apply to other aspects of my life. So that development attitude for my employees and my managers and things like that, that can be applied to martial arts, in terms of helping other people along their martial arts journey and help them to improve, right? And so I really, that's what I sort of focus on from a day-to-day perspective now is like I like being exposed to all these different types of things to try and see where the similarities are. And how, what I can pull from this conversation or that conversation and apply that, as a bit of a patchwork quilt in my life to become a better operator.
What do you look for when you hire someone?
So this is a good question. So when I hire, I'm very big. I have a fairly specific process now that I do from a hiring perspective. So as an example, I think, and most people that have been in corporate would take this for granted. So any sort of big corporate where there's a HR department or the HR department, conducts the first round of interviews and things like that, they probably take a lot of this stuff for granted. Because I found, when I got out of corporate and went back into retail, I've made a lot of hiring mistakes. And so I can say that, my process was far from perfect when I first got back into it. I always say, the level that I was expected to operate at and the level that my knowledge and my experience was at was totally different when I first, got to manage a dealership, when I was dealer principal at Castle Holden. And so the things that I learnt was that the more robust your hiring process is, generally the better the outcome. Okay, so a lot of the times you got to think when do people generally hire people is when there's a necessity to hire people because nobody wants to pay for it unless there's a requirement. Yeah, which typically means that when you're hiring, somebody's at a breaking point because the workload is so immense that if you don't do this, you're probably going to lose that person as well, and so you're in this haste to sort of make a fast decision to try and think that putting somebody on is better than having nobody. Yep. So I guess talking about how my process has changed over the years. So typically now, and we've hired recently for people in my business. So obviously the first step is obviously the resumes and the cover letters and that sort of stuff. Now my process is typically I will glance over both. So typically, if somebody isn't specific in their cover letter, so I can see it's a cover letter that's just been, they're doing the shotgun approach. Yep. It's been sent to 50 different jobs. People that, like I've had resumes come through and they say, oh, I'm really looking forward to this challenge in the real estate industry. You're out. Yep. So I straight away those people get shelved because if you haven't taken the time, so if you really want a job, and this is my advice to anybody who might be looking for work or looking to get into an industry, if that's really what you want to do, be specific. If you're applying for a job and you're not specifically tailoring your cover letter and your resume to that job, well, you might get a job, right? But anywhere that I think is probably worth its weight of somewhere to be in terms of culture and workplace, you probably won't get a job there. Yep. Right? You get the job at at the place where somebody needs somebody, right? So I typically will obviously review cover letters and resumes. I'm not too anal on that, like in the sense of I'm not trying to nitpick out all the spelling mistakes and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, I feel like I'm a bit OCD, so I do notice it. Yep. But the next stage that I then do is I I've actually got this like a Google sheet, a Google form set up, and typically it's like anybody that I want to potentially interview, I send them the Google form, and I ask them to fill it in. And so that will include a few things. So obviously, they put in their name, their contact details, blah, blah, blah. They talk a little bit. I obviously ask them to give examples of some of their experience that relates to the position that they're going for. I also have a typing test in there.
A typing test?
A typing test. Yep. Because in like anyone that's going to be customer facing in the automotive industry typically will need to use a computer. Mm-hmm. And so this is probably going to sound horrible, but if you only type it 20 words per minute, a typical story is like, so if I'm writing my notes from a conversation, that could be 2 to 3, maybe 4 paragraphs long if I'm detailed with my notes. Yep. Right? Not called and left message, right? Like even that called and left message, well, that's 4 words. If you type at 20 words per minute, divide that by 4 words.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You know how long that person's going to take, let alone typing you a detailed story. So one of the things I have a link to a typing test and I get people to put what their typing result is. I haven't been, at the point where I've had to go and say, look, here, do the typing test here to check people. Like obviously there's a bit of an honesty thing there, right?
Yeah.
And then I have about 30 odd behavioral questions that I've sort of hatched together from obviously, when you do your own research into HR and some of the interviews that I've done in the past. So typically they're behavioral questions with a strongly disagree and a strongly agree, and then, agree or disagree and neutral in the middle. And in those questions, there's no right or wrong. It's more just like, it's almost like have you ever done a DISC profile?
A DISC profile. No.
So it's like they sort of break up your what your behaviors or attitudes are into 4 quadrants. So dominance is like how dominant are you as, like, what's your mindset? Are you a very dominant person? Are you an influencer? Are you consistent? Consistency and steadiness, I think, are the other 2. But anyway, so basically when you do a DISC profile, it's like one of those behavioral analytic things.
Yeah.
It sort of looks to identify what kind of person are you. I actually did this course slightly differently when I was at Toyota, and there was I don't remember the lady's name, but you could probably look it up. It was called the Fruit Quiz, and she was quite smart in how she did it. She repackaged the whole DISC profile into colors or fruits, and so an apple, as an example, would be a trait of dominance. So because it's a hard fruit, versus a banana, which is quite a soft fruit.
Yep.
Right. And then, so she packaged it a little bit differently, but that when I did that, obviously I uncovered some things about myself. And so I know that I'm generally high D, so high dominance, and high I, which is influence. That's my style.
Yep.
And then, some of the other things when it comes to, analytics and those sorts of things, they're still important to me, but versus my 2 dominant traits, they don't rank as highly. Right. And so, when I have that behavioral section, what I typically then do is I have an idea of what the profile that I want for that person to be for that role. So
like behavior standpoint,
yeah. From a behavior standpoint, what I have a range of what's acceptable and not acceptable.
Yeah.
Like an example of a question would be, it is better to get a job done than to get it done perfectly, right? And so there's no right or wrong, right? There'll be people that would strongly agree with that, but then you go, well, strongly agree, then I probably just got somebody who just wants to get, tick a box.
Yep.
They're not really thinking and taking ownership,
Yep.
right? So, you'd probably discount the people that are on the majors, and then you're looking for where they sort of fit into that sliding scale for the balance of those questions. And because some of those questions they're probably very similar things, but worded slightly different, I find it's quite hard to sort of, want to cheat it, You probably could, but there's no point in cheating it, because at the end of the day, it's not like a pass or fail.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just using that as a guide so that I know when I'm communicating to that person, what is the best way for me to communicate. Right. Typically I'll ask them the question about, how do they like to learn? Do they like to learn being shown an example, or is it written, or is it visual, or is it by doing? Like, you know, everybody learns slightly differently.
Yep.
So that's the second stage of the process. So the first stage is obviously submitting your application. Second stage is then to fill in the Google sheet. I do have a sneaky question in there, which is the very last question, because when you click through all the boxes, and I'm giving away my secret here, so if anyone's looking for a job with me and you know the secret now, you know how not to F it up. My very last question is, did you notice any mistakes in this questionnaire? And if so, what question? Because by that stage, you probably spent about maybe 20 minutes going through this whole questionnaire. Mm-hmm. You've come to the end, and I guess, you know, I'm trying to see how focused to detail people are.
Yep.
Because there are intentional mistakes.
Yeah, okay.
Right, that are in there. So I know what questions they are and blah, 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 blah.
Do they have to point out which mistakes they were?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Yep.
And so the reason why I have that in there is because, and look, you know, it's not a pass or fail either. You know, I one of my managers that I recently hired didn't give me an answer for that, right? And I'll give him shit about it. But you know, like typically why I ask that question is because I'm going to see how. Sometimes I find out how much somebody wants the job, because somebody might go back and then resubmit the questionnaire after going through it again.
Yep.
And I've seen that before, you know, and I've seen the name pop up 2 or 3 times,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then other people, you know, maybe they get it in the first go and they did notice those mistakes. And to them, you know, the person who is detail oriented would pick up on it and they go, oh, that's odd. You know, he spelt it wrong,
Yep.
right? And then that'll pop up in that last question.
Yeah.
So so that's the second stage, second stage of that process. Then typically from there, you know, we do an interview. And then for anyone that's typically employee level, so not management level in my business, I will always ask that they do a trial. And that trial is just a 1 day. You know, I want you to come in, sit with the people that you're going to be working with, because what I'm trying to assess is cultural fit now.
Yep.
You know, how well is this person going to add to the environment of my business, or are they going to take away from it? And I typically think, you know, like some people might say, oh, you know, we want you to do a week-long trial or a 2-week trial. Like, to me, I think 1 day is going to be good enough for me to make an assessment, because, you know, typically what will happen on that 1 day, they're going to get introduced to a lot of people. They're going to sit around and obviously watch what happens. Depending on the candidate, sometimes they'll get involved, you know, that they want to get involved and do their best and showcase what they're capable of. Sometimes that also works against them. They might get too involved. You know, they don't have the knowledge or the ability, but they're trying too hard. And as a result of it, that shows me that rather than respecting their knowledge level, they're trying to push their boat more than, you know.
Bit of overconfidence.
Overconfidence, right? You're looking for that balance. And so then, you know, typically a hiring decision, there'll be some, you know, collaboration between other departments and managers, because we'll have a chat at the end of the day about, you know, what did we think of that person? You know, and if we had, say, 2 or 3 people make it through, so, you know, 2 or 3 people make it through to the trial stage, we'll then rank those people based on who we think is, you know, ideal, mm-hmm. and then go from there to do that hiring stage. Yeah. So I've found that to be the most, I guess, the least time intensive, but the most robust process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, for me, that's worked for me. You know, every operator is different. Like, obviously, what will work for you guys might be an iteration of that, may be totally different. But, you know, for what I found anyway, it's worked quite well for my businesses to do it that way, and really get that assessment, because, you know, if at the end of the day, somebody who's filled in a questionnaire, they've done an interview and they've done a trial, typically really wants to work in your business.
Yep.
So it's not really a question about, you know, whether they want the job or not now. It's more a question of, are they going to fit in? Are they going to be able to learn and receptive to feedback? You know, and those are the things that we're trying to flush out in that trial day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that like the pre-qualifying questionnaire is really good.
Yeah.
Especially around the behavioural side of things.
Yeah.
I'd be keen to add that into our business as
well. I'll flick you a copy so you can have a look at it. It's nothing fancy. I pieced it together probably almost. I probably used that for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But I can honestly say all of my best hires have gone through that process.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, the employees that I've really enjoyed being with over the last few years have all been out of that process.
Yeah.
I think it also, like, I think from a employee standpoint, I want people that are coming into my business to actually feel like they're getting the job because they were the most suitable candidate, not because of any other reason other than you obviously did well in the interview, you did well in the questionnaire, you did well on the trial day. That's why you're here, right? And I think that's a very important message for people to get as well, because then they don't take that opportunity for granted. Mm-hmm. I think if the hiring process is too easy, it's very easy for somebody to just go, oh, well, I got that job, like,
they
so
just needed
easy.
a worker kind of thing.
Yeah. Like there was no investment from their perspective, so it doesn't really matter if they lose their job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're the things that I'm really big on from a hiring perspective. Mm-hmm. I guess when I talk about culture, I have like these specific lenses that I typically look at culture through. So 3 of them, I think there's a guy on YouTube. I think his name is Dan Locke. He's a Hong Kong property guy. Have you seen Dan Locke?
Yeah. The FU money guy.
Yeah. The FU money guy. So I think his way of looking at people is quite smart. So he talks about loyalty, harmony, and the result. And so basically, if you're trying to identify who are the capable people in your organization, they'll typically have all 3. Right, and then he goes through, what are the scenarios if they only have 2. So as an example, loyalty is how loyal are they to you and your direction, and the direction that you want to take the company, because that's important to have alignment, right? Mm-hmm. Harmony. So I word this one slightly different. To me, harmony. I always view harmony like the tide. It's like the waves in the ocean. It can either raise you up, or it's going to sink you. Right, it can come over the top of you and bury you. So how well you manage your relationships with your colleagues and peers in your company will determine your potential in the future. Because you could be the most loyal person to me in my direction and get me a great result. I think result's pretty self-explanatory. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have great relationships with your peers, the moment that I try and elevate your position, they're just dragging you back down, right? So likewise, the person who works well in their team and gets you a great result, but they're not loyal to you in your direction, well, the moment they get a better offer, or maybe there is somebody that they're more loyal to, they're going to be gone anyway. Yeah. So from an investment point of view of my time and my development material, if I invest in that person and then I'm only going to lose them anyway, it's a poor choice of investment. Yeah. Right. And then likewise, the person that's loyal to me in my direction, works well in a team, but doesn't get me a result. Like, unfortunately, we're running a business. Mm-hmm. Friendships aside, the result is what you're there to do. That's what you're paid to achieve.
Exactly.
So those people, it's not always to say that there's no future. I think sometimes those people are in the wrong spot. They're either in the wrong spot or perhaps they're not shown what they need to do effectively. Yeah. So it's been, I think over the last probably 3 years, I've had a lot of growth in terms of my own mindset as a manager and a leader as well. And I think you'll be going through this as well, because when you started your duo, it was all about, we need to get this done, we need to get that done, mm-hmm. right? And so you're operating in this very task oriented mindset, right? And then now it's like, okay, now we've sort of gotten ourselves beyond that task oriented mindset. Now we actually need to think about, okay, how can I bring somebody on board that can do these tasks for me and set up the systems and the processes so that, you don't have to go and say, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, because that all works really great to get you an outcome. But what happens if, you're not there for a day?
Exactly.
You don't want shit to fall apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I find like hiring managers is probably one of the harder things to do in terms of like the hiring process, because that person needs to have ownership and,
Yep.
So I really like that culture side of things. It's a really like interesting lens to look at culture from. So
yeah. Oh, sorry. And the other lens that I sort of add over it was thinking about from the guest perspective, so the customer's perspective. So a lot of the times, like the first 3 things in terms of loyalty, harmony, and the result are internal metrics. We look at that and we go, if we have somebody that hits all 3 of those boxes, then you go, oh, well, that's an all-star employee. Yep. But then what are your customers saying about that person? Because somebody could hit those metrics, but could have customers behind their back saying, well, I just got sold a car and now I've been dropped, So this guy might be great. He might sell me, 20 cars a month, but he offers zero follow-up customer service, right? Again, that person is going to be a liability to my business in the long run.
Yeah.
Like, it's all great to get them in and give people this wonderful experience, but you have to maintain the relationship.
Yeah.
And so I try and really instill that with any of my sales guys, that you got to think about it from a longer term perspective. And I think I've talked about this before in a different podcast where I talk about the automotive industry, but I think it's a real cultural problem in the automotive industry, because typically somebody might, get you a great result for a short period of time, and then they stop delivering you that result. So then you move them out of your business and they will potentially move to another dealership or whatever else. The problem for that, from a client's perspective, is that you lose all that experience and that relationships that that person has built.
Yep.
So, and I think, business owners typically are always scared of giving their people too much rope to generate those relationships, right? Because then when you lose that person, you lose those relationships as a result of it. I approach it very differently, and I guess, the reason why I do that is because I look at it from the other perspective as an employee as well, that, I'm going to foster the best relationships that I can, because these people will potentially, irrespective of where I go, they may be there to help me in the future.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the lens that I look at it as. And then, so from an employment perspective, to me, that makes me more valuable, right? To a company owner, that might make me a liability, right? So you can see how, like, there's two different ways that you can look at it. But I think, that makes me more valuable because, wherever I go, I bring these relationships with me, I bring these opportunities with me, I bring potentially these people with me, right? Yeah. So there's many different ways you can look at it, but I think, me being on the other side of it and thinking of it as like having ownership of, being a part of this business and running this business, I want my guys to be, treating it like it's their own. Them, talking about extreme ownership, I want them to foster those relationships, because when they do that, then it's up to me now to retain them, right?
Yeah.
They built their worth, and obviously if they're worth it, they're worth it.
Exactly.
Like, you're gonna pay what the market's worth.
Yeah.
But until they realize that for themselves, like, I can only tell it to them. They've got to live it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's more of like a growth mindset. Whereas, like, if you're scared of like losing things, you're like just living in scarcity and just like afraid of losing all those things when you could achieve all that growth.
Yeah.
And,
One of the things, I guess, talking about development, right? Like, I have this thing where I'm currently, talking to all my people in my business about, if you had to boil yourself down to one value, what would that be, right? And so I guess, examples would be like honesty, integrity, transparency. Some people might value the result over everything else. Some people might value being loved, right? Like, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just, if you had to boil yourself down to one word, is there one word that speaks to you? Like, what would yours be?
That's a tough question. Something I've been like pondering on a lot is integrity and like having a code. I feel like that's something that really like resonates with me. I actually just recently listened to one of George St. Pierre's podcasts with Joe Rogan. It was one from ages ago, but he talks a lot about having a code, and just like, I just love that kind of like that person, that just can't be shaken and just always has like their way of walking life.
Yeah. Because I think it's a great exercise for anyone in business to do, is to understand what their value is. And the reason why it's important to share that with your people is because now when you communicate with your staff, the thing that you value the most is integrity. So what you expect from them is to operate with integrity.
Yep. Right?
So if something was going wrong, rather than trying to cover it up, they live up to the integrity standard and say, you know what, Chris, I fucked this up. Please don't kill me, but that's
I would much rather prefer that than someone hiding it up.
And that's why I think there's value in actually communicating that, right? So I use the word transparency. To me, that's my key word. So what I value above all else is transparency. So I offer that transparency to my people, and I expect it in return. Yep. So it's funny because like there's many links between all of these words, but just by nature of the word, it's just slightly different, right? So like I think that's a cool exercise to do with your people and understanding what they value, because then, to me, I think that will shape the way I communicate with my people as well, and when I know what's important to them. So when I need to talk to them about accountabilities and things like that, I know what I can boil it down to.
Yeah, that's amazing. I find just even having that like one thing that you know is like most important to them, it just makes communication so much easier.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really good.
Yeah. So, when it came to talking, I just want to sort of shift gears a bit and talk about marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you what did you come up with from a marketing perspective? Was it just like, we're just going to launch this food truck and then we'll get it on Instagram and go from there, or was there a bigger picture plan, or?
For me, it was Facebook and Instagram was like integral part of our business. We would be nothing without it. It's how we've kind of gained all our customers.
Yep.
So I put a really big focus on understanding the Facebook and Instagram space, how to grow that kind of profile, and that in terms of like a bigger plan, my main focus for the first year was just get more followers, get more people on our page, and just grow that.
Yep.
And then once we have that, we can start. Once you have a brand and start, creating, little parts outside of like you're more than just a food truck, and having people actually relate to your brand, I feel like it creates a real connection and lasting customers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was there any sort of influences that you had that? Was there any marketing material that you read, or anyone that you really liked that sort of influenced the direction that you wanted to take on the marketing side of things?
It was a big mix of things. So I took a few snippets from Tim Ferriss, and I think it was his podcast with Seth Godin. Yeah, so took a lot of good snippets from him, and also just listening to other businesses on podcasts and how they scaled up their businesses. Just really like helped me understand the whole like process of like a customer's life journey with your business, and where you fit into all of that.
Yeah.
So I find that's kind of like how I've learned. I came into it with like no experience and just had to like learn it.
Learn it on the fly.
Yeah.
And then, did you ever were you investing in like, Instagram ads and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we still do a lot of Instagram, Facebook ads every day.
And do you find, so like, what did you see a incremental lift in reach and follows as a result instantly, or did it take time to build?
At the start, when we were only running our retail side,
Yep.
We were just focusing on post engagements. How many post engagements can we get for X amount of dollars? Ever since we've started up the website, it's all easier to track the success because you can track it to how many sales you've made with this much marketing spend. So that's been really good. Like, it's been really good for me to see how effective my marketing actually is in terms of creating revenue. But before that, we were just like, okay, we just want to get people onto our brand and realizing who we are. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so from a direction standpoint, like you're sort of at this crossroads now, well, not really at a crossroads. I think you can do both effectively, both wholesale and retail. Have you worked out, do you have a passion more for one or the other?
No, I enjoy them both. I think
two very different experiences.
So the retail side allows us to really create a brand and an experience, whereas the wholesale side is like we can get out to a lot of people. So I really enjoy both because I think like, yes, we can get out to so many people, but when they come to our food truck and our retail stores, you get a whole different product, a whole different feel for who we are. So,
And then I guess, are there many food truck things going on at the moment with COVID, or is that all sort of slowed down? It's pretty hard, isn't it? But outdoors is okay.
Yeah, outdoors is okay. So most people are still running their food trucks. I mean, we're open every week. So yeah.
So then, okay, talk to me about. So you got a pop up going on at the moment.
Yep. So we have a pop up store in Cabramatta, and we have a dessert truck that opens every week in Strathfield as well. So we open every week, every weekend basically.
Okay, and so then you've got obviously people that will go to those respective sites and look after that for you?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so I have 2 store managers for each site and our staff team as well.
Yep. And was there any specific reason why you chose those areas?
We started off in Strathfield.
Yep.
That area has always been really good for us. So we just kind of stuck there.
Yep.
And same for Cabramatta. Back early on when we only had the one truck, back when we were only doing one location, we used to go down to Cabramatta, and it was like crazy. So we knew like we had to do like another
There's a following there.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I want to go back a bit because I was just thinking about this just before. You studied at UTS.
Yep.
Now, tell me about, what was your experience like at UTS? I'm also an ex-UTS person. So
Oh, okay. What did you study?
I did engineering and law.
Oh, wow.
So it was one of those odd things. My brother went to UTS as well. So my brother did computer systems engineering and did he do computer systems or did he do telecommunications? Might have been telecommunications and arts. I can't remember what he studied now. But anyway, he did a form of engineering and he did arts.
Yep.
For international studies. And then for me, it was just I was going to go. I was definitely going to do engineering, and then it was just a convenience thing that I ended up getting the marks to do law as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think for me, like my experience at uni was I was that guy that was just average at everything. I just did whatever, like the minimum basically.
Yeah.
Which for me, I wasn't really interested. I kind of like had in the back of my mind that I wanted to do my own business. So I was just doing this more so like I could keep my parents happy, got the degree, and then go do wherever I wanted. So I found myself being really distracted in uni with other things like computer games and poker and playing all sorts of things. So I was very distracted. I just did the minimum.
What kind of computer games?
So I played Dota 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a common one. Okay.
Yeah.
and then poker. So were you playing at the casino or were you playing?
Yeah. So I had a funny story, but I actually wanted to pursue a career as a professional poker player. When I was in uni as well. So I spent a lot of hours at the casino. Just doing that.
And I guess on the scheme of things, did you clean up or did you get cleaned up?
On the scheme of things, I ended up positive and did quite well. It was more, I don't know why I quit. I felt like I stopped enjoying it and I felt a little lonely from playing all those hours. Like that was all I did and I became obsessed with it. So I just got to a point in my life where I felt like I was just...
It's become antisocial now.
Yeah, exactly. And I distanced myself from my friends and that was all I cared about. And then I stopped caring about poker and, that's when I knew I needed to stop. And
it would become an addiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you reading all the books and like, going into strategy and...
Yeah, so I studied it a lot.
Yeah. And would you say that you were... So were you the kind of player that would focus in terms of odds, or were you the kind of player that would really play based on people's emotions? Like there's different styles of play, right?
Yeah, of course. I think the best players focus on both. Yep. So when you're playing live poker, you obviously can't just... you have to take into account people's emotions and their traits and their tells. And then you also have to know the maths. Yep. Maths is like the basics. You need to know that to be a successful, profitable poker player. So, you have to have both sides. But if you're playing online, which is massive now, it's less on the tell side. There is a little part of it, but it's more like the maths. And
what kind of tells are you going to get when you're playing online?
So it's more so like sometimes like how fast they place their bet or just the overall style of their play and how well they're playing. And you can tell if someone's like a frustrated player online as well by the style of their play. If they usually play like really tight, like a small range of hands and then all of a sudden they're just betting like a lot.
Numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like you probably know they're like on a losing streak and they want to make their money back.
Yep. Yeah. And was there, so talking about poker, right? Do you have any good stories? Was there one time where you might have been down and cleaned back up, or was there someone with a particular tell that you found was interesting?
Yeah. So during my time when I was playing poker, I was really young, and I used to go to the casino like literally in the morning till nighttime.
Oh wow!
And I was a young kid, and usually the guys at the casino tables are really old, and people call them the sharks, basically.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like very arrogant, egotistical. They think they're the stuff, but they don't really keep up to date with the new style of gameplay. So I kind of came in as this like young kid. I kind of acted like I knew nothing and did nothing, and would slowly clean them up over time. And it was they would get pretty angry because it was just like this this teenage looking kid, like I was like 22 at the time.
Yeah.
But I studied a lot of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But over time, they probably know who you are, right?
Yeah.
Because
Over
you'd
time.
see the same guys if you're there every day.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think for like even like the first 6 months, they gave me no respect. It was like a really funny like kind of relationship because like as soon as I sit down to the table, they knew like it was on. Like
Yeah.
this guy.
Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got to go hard.
Yeah. Because like they would sit with all their mates and they're kind of like friendly with each other. They wouldn't
Yeah.
go hard, but
Yeah.
as soon as I came down, they knew.
Then it was like yeah,
it
it's
would go
business.
quiet. Like it
It's
would
business.
be friendly. Yeah, exactly.
You can feel the tension.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So it was fun times.
So then was your time at Star City in place of you attending classes?
Yeah, exactly. So I was literally like would skip lectures,
Yep.
go to Star City.
Yeah, I think I look that was my strategy as well. Like I wasn't at the Star.
Yeah.
I think I attended maybe 60% of first year. And the rest of that was on a basketball court. And then I think So I started working pretty much I started working like it's meant to be full time, but pretty much permanent part time, at least 30 plus hours a week, from like third year on. So
While studying.
Yeah, while studying.
Wow.
So I was a bit. I always say they were the hardest years of my life. So basically, my brothers took. I think he took 7 years to finish his degree. Like because he slowed down after he went overseas and he came back, so he took his time. For me, it was a little bit different because my mum was going through some things, so I would say I was very driven. So even when I left high school over the summer before I started uni, I went and got my real estate license. So I was accredited to sell real estate.
Yeah.
And then obviously, first year of uni was partially a bit of play, but my mum started to get a bit worse. So then I started to get a bit more serious about life. And so then, once I started working, I was basically doing a full-time workload, my apprenticeship, so 1 day at TAFE, and then a full-time uni load. The good thing about UTS was that it was ultra flexible. I was doing 5 subjects a semester.
Wow.
Trying to finish early. So I finished a year early. So it was meant to be a 5.5 year degree. I finished it in 4.5, just because I was driven, And I think, when I look back on it, I go, shit, I was crazy, But I think for me, I think that where you get success is when you don't give yourself the option. Like I think, humans by default, we're probably more inclined to take the easy path, 8 to 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
So for me, I removed that option.
Burn the boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, if you don't have the option, you got to do it. And I think that showed because I think there was 1 year where I thought, I'm gonna cut back. I'll just do 4 subjects. I'll do a normal workload. Then I failed 2 subjects, and I was like, fuck, that just put me behind. Like, I just burnt the work that I did the previous year.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, then I was like, okay, well, I'll just do 5 subjects. And it was funny because like when you try and do it, I don't know about now, like but at least back then. You go and enroll in your subjects, and when I first said that to somebody, they're like, "Oh, you can't do that. You won't be able to cope."
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was the first reaction because I did it from term 1, like it's the semester 1. So the first year in uni, I already did 5 subjects, and I was just like, "Oh no, I'll be right." So I just enrolled.
Yep.
Right, and then it's not like you got to manage your own clashes, but my attendance rate after when I started working, I would only attend night classes, so because I was working during the day.
Yeah. Wow.
So my attendance rate went significantly down, but I was good, like able to, I think I was very fortunate that, I made some good friends who were happy to share with me their notes and things like that, and that's how I got through. But I, even after uni, I was like, there was probably a period there for maybe 6 months to a year where I used to have nightmares about it. Like I'd wake up and be like, I got an exam on today. And then like look at my wall and then see the certificate and I go, fuck, I've been through it all. Like I've done it already.
You've
like
done it.
Yeah, like yeah, but you wake up with that stress, like I'm not prepared.
Yeah, wow.
So that was what my uni experience was like. But look, as I said, UTS was very flexible. I was really happy about that. But yeah, I just wanted to get it done and get on with my career basically.
How long were you studying for?
So I did it for 4.5 years.
Yep.
So finished in 4.5 years. So yeah, so I would have I must have started, maybe it was the start of second year. So that would have been 2003. Yeah, so probably maybe start of second year that I started working. Yeah, like for me, I sort of thought there was only sort of two avenues for me to take that degree. I thought it was either, I'm either going to have to go into the automotive space or go into like civil and construction, because engineering and law, conveyancing, like that kind of commercial construction might be another area where I could have used what I was studying. Yep. And then, for me, I always had a passion for Toyota cars back then because of the old school Toyota sports cars. So I wanted to get into Toyota. And then so once that happened, it was one of the things that that was, I guess, a little bit interesting was that I actually before I started working full time at the dealership doing my apprenticeship, I was doing temping. So I was just temping for like different legal places or paralegal places to get some experience.
What's temping?
Like temporary work.
Oh, okay.
So you do a contract, maybe 2 weeks work,
yep.
And try and get your foot in the door kind of a thing. And then what happened was one of the agencies that had got me a job somewhere else, they contacted me when I'd started, doing my apprenticeship, and I got offered a temporary role at a really good law firm. And when I heard the name, I said, oh yeah, like that's fantastic, right? And then I thought about it and I go, well, shit, what am I going to do? Call in sick at my other job? Like it's a 2-week contract, potentially then going to permanent. Mm-hmm. So then I thought about it and then I actually called the lady back and I said no. And she was like, oh, you realize, which firm this is? And I'm like, yeah, I'm probably crazy, but, I can't do it. Like, I guess, when you talk about integrity, well, that's how I felt. Like, I didn't feel right to then, whether I probably had the annual leave to do it. I probably could have called, taken annual leave or called in sick or something to do it, but it didn't sit right with me. And so I ended up just, chasing the automotive industry basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you have any post feelings of regret after you called her and told her, did you feel like you were missing out on this massive opportunity and your life's going to go in a whole different plane? Or?
Yeah. I guess, it's like a sliding doors moment, right? But I wouldn't say I regret it. Like I think if I went into the legal field, life would be very different. I think for me and what I enjoy, I probably wouldn't be happy in the field as much as I am now. Because I think, when you're in that legal world, there's a lot of reading, and a lot of hours, and it is ultra corporate, and, I only lasted 5 years in corporate and I had enough. So,
yeah.
So I don't think that was, the end goal for me anyway. Yeah. I much more enjoy, retail and dealerships and doing all the things that I love, like martial arts. So, and I was still training throughout that time as well. So, with martial arts, I was pretty obsessed. Like that was my, that was my addiction. Never got into drugs or anything like that or partying or anything like that. It was always martial arts. Yep. And so, to the point where, you do burn some of your friendships because, on a Friday night, I'm going to training instead of going out. Right.
Yeah.
And so over time, you do sort of, people get used to not asking you.
Yep.
And so even for my high school friends, they got used to it. And so then, when I did come out, they're like, oh, you can come out. And it's like, yeah, it's not Friday, but I was training so back then I would have been training 5 times a week.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you'd also build relationships through martial arts as well, right?
Yeah. So obviously, you build your friendships through martial arts and, you meet, and that's one of the great things about, I think, when we talk about communities, right? There's communities for everything.
Yep.
Right. Even your workplace is a community, and that's why the culture of your workplace is important. Likewise, the places where you train, there's a community there as well.
Yep.
And I think it's if I could say anything to anyone, encourage anyone to do anything, it's get involved with those communities because you don't know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
Just like how we get to have this awesome conversation. That's because we're in the same community, but it's not just, that's not all of who you are. You know, I always say that I used to always think that for me, my life was very compartmentalized. So, you know, there was the me that was at training, there was the me that was at work, there was a me that was at home, and there was a me that was with my friends and family type of thing.
Yep.
And for me now, I feel like, you know, I've just sort of broken down all those walls. And it's just, you know, I'm the same guy, irrespective of whether I'm at work, whether I'm at training, where I'm at home. Like, I try and be the same person.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just a different activity, but it's
Yeah.
the same face.
Yeah.
Same person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and same, I guess, from a congruence perspective, probably the same style of personality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I try and obviously, you know, dial it back with my wife.
Yep.
so that she doesn't shoot me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, the same sort of, I guess, transparency and bluntness, I do bring that home as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's amazing. I feel like because I was so new to martial arts, like coming into BJJ, I never expected the community to be so strong.
Yep.
Especially because, you know, you're literally trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, as soon as the role's done, it's like, hey,
Yeah.
we're mates, like we're brothers, like we're just trying to.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing. Like I never expected that, and that was something that like just stood out to me straight away. It's like the sense of community.
Yeah.
Especially within the BJJ side.
Yeah. When you endure hardship, like that's, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, when people say through thick and thin, that's what it's like, right?
Yeah.
You're about to try and nail each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you've gone through that, then there's almost like a respect that forms as a result of
exactly.
it. Yeah.
And there's like no like ill intent behind it. It's just like,
Yep.
yeah, this is what we're trying to do. And
Yep.
I feel like it's even strong because I've always been like a team sports guy, and
Yep.
like I've played other sports, but never done anything like martial arts or anything individual. So I feel like you'd expect it for like team sports to be like the bond is a lot stronger. But with my experience, I felt like when I do martial arts, like the bonds like within the BJJ community is just like,
Yeah.
it's so strong because of how intimate it is as well.
Yeah. You know, it's one of those words. It's like, probably shouldn't say that like, because we cop it enough as it is, where, you know, you see two guys rolling around and then we use the word intimate.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And people can put two and two together and you know, their own mental, you know, imagery goes off track.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. I think, you know, for me, I view martial arts more as like a lifestyle than anything else. So, you know, you know, it's just like a routine. You know, you have a shower every day, or you brush your teeth every day. You should do some form of exercise every day.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's, to me, that's a sanity check.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of people use it as that as well. It's good to get out and take out your stresses and on other people.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, I definitely feel like stress relief after BJJ.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You can't be stressed, like, or thinking about your business when someone's like crushing your face into the mat. You know what I mean?
That's right. You got to be focused, and that's, I think that's good because you can take things away from that process too. So, the process of learning martial arts is like, you can you know, it's like the steps to conscious competence. You've seen that one before, where whenever you start anything new, you're unconsciously incompetent. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And then the next step would be that you're consciously incompetent. So you now realize I'm shit, like I don't know much. And then the next stage is to then get to you're unconsciously competent. So you start to get good, but you don't know why. You just, it's starting to work for you, and you go, oh, I'm making progress. And then the next step after that is to get to conscious competence, where you go, oh, I actually know what I'm doing, and I know why I'm getting better now, right? So those things in martial arts, I think, 100% translate to any other endeavor, whether it comes to work or family and life and those sorts of things. You know, I think too often we don't focus enough in terms of detail, right? And that's what I love about these conversations, is because we can actually get into real detail and share detail, as opposed to just, you know, oh yeah, it's just ice cream.
Yeah,
well,
like
no,
surface level.
Yeah, it's
like,
surface level, right? Like, I would have never known that the amount of air that you put into it will change the texture of it, right? And likewise, you know, when we talk about doing extracts, like, you know, there's differences in how you can generate flavor, right? And I guess, you know, for like foodies would probably really understand that.
Yeah.
And there are other people who probably don't know much about food, but I think, you know, it's almost healthy to have like that kind of an obsession to chase some of those details. Like, I know for a lot of people, you know, if they're not interested in detail, they probably think it's very wanky.
Yeah.
But it gives you a different appreciation of things.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if you're interested in something, then you're naturally going to be drawn to the details of things.
And I think for people, they just need to find what that obsession is for them, because it's different for everyone.
Exactly.
And then, this goes back to one of my other favorite sayings that I always like to say, which is how you do anything is how you do everything. So, I probably don't apply it as much as I should in certain things. So like, I was talking to one of my other mates, Jason, who's done a podcast with me before as well. How personally I don't like marketing some of the things that I do, like my podcasts and so, like I started doing some film study breakdowns of fights and things like that. I don't like marketing it. And I think that's more just like, when I look at priorities, right? Like it's probably more important for me to have great conversations and spend my time doing that side of things than spending my time doing the marketing. Like I feel like, marketing is one of those amplifiers, but you need to have substance to amplify.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, for me, I try and focus more on creating substance as opposed to the amplification process. From a business perspective, yeah, absolutely. I'm more all about marketing when it comes to, selling BMWs and pre-owned cars and motorbikes and things like that, because that's what my business is about. Mm-hmm. We've already got the core. Now it's about the amplification to get the marketing message across and get those people coming into our business. Yep. But I feel, I don't know whether it's a personal thing where I feel very shy about it. Like I don't know, but I know I definitely don't spend enough time on it. But I will focus on other things as opposed to doing that.
You're more focused on substance right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it applies to business like so much as well, because if you don't have a good product, you can have the best marketing in the world, but you're not going to sell a thing.
Yep.
If your product's crap, or you're not going to get any returning customers.
Yep.
You'll get a one-off sale, but
yeah.
And that's something that I just stand by completely, like especially with our product. Like there's no shortcuts. Like I don't want to just make a once-off sale. I want my guys to come back and try us again and again and again.
Yep. Have you guys ever had any negative feedback around your products?
Yeah, a lot actually. So like to be honest, when we first started to where we are now, there's been a massive shift in the quality of our product.
Okay.
And that's just through a combination of us receiving constant feedback, taking it in, and also just always wanting to develop and make it better. So I think we've had like 20 iterations of the fried ice cream ball and the crumb. And
really?
Like how it's done and how it's made and like what temperature the ice cream needs to be at. And just all those little minute details just make the biggest difference in terms of the final product. So yeah, I always encourage like my friends and family to give me feedback, to give me reviews and all that. So yeah.
Have you ever had to deal with any customer complaints? Like, is there ever a time where somebody's brought the ice cream back and gone, "This is shit" or something?
No, I haven't had that in person. Anyone do that? We've had like the odd like negative Google review here and there.
Yep.
But you can't always please everyone.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, we've had a customer complain once that she asked why the ice cream inside wasn't hot.
Oh, that's odd. Because it wouldn't be ice cream.
Yeah, you'd be having soup.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was probably one of the most odd complaints we've had.
Yep. And then what about, so when we talk about the flavor creation, right? Like when you're thinking about what sort of flavors to design or whatever, do you guys have a process around that, or is it more just, whatever feedback you get and then you go, oh, let's try and make something like this?
The process we have now is I have like a weekly brainstorm session of new flavor ideas. I've been lucky to hire a really good pastry chef. So she's now taken over the flavor development side of things. So I have a brainstorm session with her, and we always started off with what flavors excite us the most.
Yep.
And then we build on from there. And then, but I always find that like whatever like it is that really excites us will generally, there'll be other people out there that are also excited by that as well. Yep. So that's kind of like how we start the whole process. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we've pretty much almost done a couple of hours.
Really?
It's gone that quick.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, or?
No, I think we've covered a lot of things. It's been an awesome time.
Yeah. No, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Johnny.
We're going to head to BJJ shortly. So bye, everyone.
See you guys.